Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Mac 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And today I'm very excited about a conversation with folks that I've just met a few moments ago, but have been with great anticipation for our conversation today. So please help me welcome Phil Bradstock. He is the Business Attraction Program Manager with the City of Phoenix. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you for having me.
We're thrilled to have you. And Jose Anca with the Better Business Bureau's Capital Access Department, and he is the manager. I didn't read that correctly, but Jose is the Capital Access Manager for BBB. How are you, sir?
Doing very well. How are you? Thank you so much.
My pleasure to have you. I'm excited. And a quick shout out to Tiara Terry over at the BBB for the idea that we needed to have this conversation on air and for the willingness to say, let me rally some of our partners to have this conversation and bring a lot of insight and light into it. And then also with us today, we have Godaddy's Senior Director for Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainability. Welcome to the show, Stacy Cline.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited. So before we get into our kind of a topic at hand and why the BBB even recommended that we share this, loud and wide, I would love to hear just a little bit about who each of you are. We have an hour for the conversation, so don't be shy. We'd love to know the role you play at the organization that you represent, and really kind of how you found your way there. So let's have the Reader Digest version. Is that even a thing anymore? Maybe I'm the only one old enough to know what that reference is. But Stacy, if you would start with us first, tell us a little bit about yourself and the role that you play at Godaddy.
Sure. Godaddy is the world's largest services platform for entrepreneurs around the globe. And we are on a mission to empower our worldwide community of more than 20 million customers and entrepreneurs everywhere by giving them all the help and tools to grow online. So I have been at the company now for about 8.5 years. And in my role, I am responsible for driving the strategic direction of GoDaddy's social impact efforts. So under that umbrella, there's about 7 different programs that allow us to give back as a company to the community and also allows our employees to give back to the community in whichever way that they're passionate about.
I love it. 8.5 years, is that right?
8.5 years, yes.
Very good. So how did you land there? Do you have I want to ask if it's a nonprofit background, but a philanthropic drive, it sounds like. Tell me a little bit about you and your professional journey.
Yeah, so I'm one of those, I think, rare cases of someone who's doing exactly what they went to college for and sort of set out to do. So I graduated from ASU, from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. And during my junior and senior year, I had been doing a lot of work on a capstone project to work with different nonprofit organizations around the Valley and help them develop their PR plans, sort of their external branding, and really help them on their fundraising side of things. So it was then I really learned that I wanted to go into this philanthropic space. There wasn't a specific area I certainly wanted to go into, but I knew I wanted to work in this space. Fortunately, timing was on my side at that time. There was a 6-month temporary position opened on the corporate social responsibility team at GoDaddy for someone to come in and sort of start figuring out how to fully launch a CSR program and strategy at the company. So fortunately, that 6-month temporary role turned into 8.5 years, and I'm still here today. And I've had the chance to really grow and develop what our programs are today, and have had the opportunity to really make a pretty big impact in 8.5 years for the company.
Love it. I'm one of those people who collect URLs, some of which I use and some of which I don't. But you'll love this. I was sitting in a show the other day, and one of the guests used this word twice. I'm going to say it out loud. Though I heard situation. He said situation, but pretty soon I'm like no longer in the conversation. I'm like, oh, I like that word for a URL. And so after the conversation, I asked permission, is that like, did I hear situation or situation? He said situation. And I said, I'm going to go get that a URL unless you own it. He's like, no, I want to know what you're going to do with it. I said, I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. It was very, very funny. And I often have those, I'll call them epiphanies. And again, some of them have been really great success stories, and others have just, I've let them fall off. But I love what GoDaddy's up to. I love who you've been on behalf of business owners for how many years now has GoDaddy been around? Forever, it seems.
Since 1997.
So forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Jose, tell us a little bit about your journey to the Better Business Bureau and the role that you're playing now.
Perfect. So my journey to the Better Business Bureau was kind of interesting. I mean, my whole journey as a whole to what I'm doing now, I always was focused on small business and economic mobility for the community that is underserved. I spent some time in DC through the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, which is a leadership institute that is aimed at providing opportunities for low-income Hispanic youth to get Hill or Capitol experience. One of the things that bars a lot of students from being able to work on Capitol Hill and make policy. So that was really always a huge point of importance to me, being part of the team that is actively engaging in benefiting my community. And so my business background starts with finance at National Bank of Arizona, where I was one of the program administrators for the multicultural banking division, where we sought to increase access to capital to low to moderate income Hispanic-owned businesses and multicultural businesses. And that's actually why the role here at BBB was such a great fit, because BBB, is the largest trade organization in Arizona, and they're seen as this epicenter of support for entrepreneurial resources and a launchpad for success for small businesses through their programs, educational opportunities, as well as just the way that they like to innovate in providing support to small businesses. And it's been a match made in heaven ever since.
Love it. Thanks for that introduction. And Phil, how about you? Tell us about your role with the City of Phoenix. And you already told me how long you've been there, but I'd love to hear how you landed there.
Yeah. So how I landed here is a very sidebar kind of interesting conversation. So actually, when I went to college, I have a political science degree. And unlike Stacy, who actually did something with her degree, my political science degree, I ended up in Hollywood. And so I worked for Warner Brothers Television for 6 years as a production coordinator, making episodic TV shows like on NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, mostly sitcoms, multi-camera, 3 walls is pretty much what I worked on. And rose up there at Warner Brothers, loved it, met my wife, and just realized what a rat race it is after 6 years. Moved here to Phoenix, and like everyone, when you first move, looking for a job. And it just so happened that the lady who was the film commissioner since 1978 retired in 2005, and I moved back here to my home state and home city in 2006, and they ended up hiring me in the role. And it just turns out that the film office is part of economic development at the city of Phoenix. And so after a number of years, I started to transition and do a little bit more economic development. And so I still, to this day, am the film commissioner. It's kind of, I call it joke, this is my ball and chain. It's going to go with me wherever I go. But largely what I started out working on is kind of the startup entrepreneurs with the smaller companies that were trying to scale. And this was back in like 2011, right after the recession, when it was really starting to get a foothold. And then since then, I've also started doing office users, so large office users, like Farmers Insurance would be an example of a large one. And now, because of all the manufacturing and industrial, I'm also working on attracting the manufacturing industrial companies out here. So I work with everybody from basically the ideation stage. I've mentored many of those companies all the way up to the large multi-million-dollar companies.
Fascinating. So I've heard from my folks that own studios in Atlanta. That's where our corporate office is as a studio partner to Business RadioX, that Atlanta it's that great hub for filmmaking, right? But isn't Phoenix, or actually all of Arizona, has kind of become that for the Southwest too, right?
Not necessarily. And a lot of the major motion pictures that you're talking about are driven by incentives. And so Georgia has a very robust incentive program along with New Mexico. Arizona does not have any type of an incentive program. We have like a little discount program that goes on. But when you're talking like a $100 million movie or a $50 million movie, you're going to want to get back 10, 15% of that. And that's what Georgia offers. Plus, they also have infrastructure. They've got the proper sound stages that are needed, the 20, 30,000 square foot facilities with their open span, no posts in the middle of them, which we just simply don't have here in Arizona. The largest thing we have is about 4,000 square feet.
That makes sense. I remember now. Thank you for correcting me. And I'd love to have a whole nother conversation with you and have you back on for
Sure.
a conversation like that. I'm fascinated by that. My younger brother was career Disney from NAU. He went into the Imagineering department as a VP and started off in accounting prior, but and then ended up his career at Universal in Florida. I'm always fascinated by that industry. So we'll put a pin in that because that's not what we're here
All right.
today. But thank you for that great introduction and that, like you said, fascinating journey. Jose, I would love, since you're representing the Better Business Bureau and the manager for business attraction, tell us why we have these two other guests with us. Like what's going on in the world of the BBB and the Kiva project, I think I'm supposed to call it. Tell us why we're here.
Yeah, so it's the Phoenix Kiva Hub, and it's super exciting because honestly, we would not be able to be having this conversation without the wonderful partners at Godaddy and the city of Phoenix. They've been incredible. They've given us every opportunity that we need in order to make this program successful. So the Phoenix Kiva Hub itself is a tool for us to give financial access to support the community's most economically underserved entrepreneurs, including minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses. And so we all have a vested interest in improving our community's access to capital. And I think that, these two organizations and the city of Phoenix and Godaddy, just with their attention on this issue, is just the perfect fit for being like a great trifecta of power to solve this problem that exists of financial exclusivity or financial exclusion within the U.S.
So how does it work, Jose?
The Kiva Loan itself is a micro loan that's crowdfunded with interest rates of 0% and zero fees that the borrower is able to create a profile online that allows them to showcase themselves to the world. So Kiva originally started as an international micro-lending institution, and a few years ago, they realized that there was a huge need for capital within the U.S. and shifted gears into a U.S.-based operation. And that's what we're utilizing and building off today. Phoenix is really in a great position to leverage this kind of capital, 0%, no fees. There is a lot of benefit that entrepreneurs and startups can get from this.
What would either Stacy or Phil like to add? I would love to hear from your perspective. What's great about this, and why are you involved?
So access to capital is one of the biggest pain points for entrepreneurs, specifically entrepreneurs in underserved communities or low-income entrepreneurs who don't have equal access to traditional bank loans for their business. And so this component, being able to bring this capital access to Phoenix, is huge for small business owners. The reason we are involved, Godaddy's mission overall is to empower entrepreneurs everywhere and make opportunity more inclusive for all. But unfortunately, as we all know, opportunity isn't inclusive or even accessible for a lot of people. And so if we truly wanted to live this mission, we knew we had to address this. So back in 2017, we launched the Empowered by Godaddy program, which is our social impact program that equips entrepreneurs in underserved communities with the training, tools, and the resources that they need to be successful. So through this program, we partner with leading organizations like the Better Business Bureau, and we partner with cities like the city of Phoenix to address the gaps that exist in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and then create programs that help fill those gaps and provide resources to entrepreneurs who have historically been left out of the small business ecosystem. Traditionally for Godaddy, we focus on what we do best, which is the digital presence side of things. So making sure that entrepreneurs can build a digital presence. They have access to a computer, they can build a website, they know how to sell everywhere, they can use social media for their business. But with this opportunity, we know how important capital is, and we knew how important it was to be involved in this partnership because bringing capital access to entrepreneurs, specifically now as businesses are working to just survive through COVID, is more important now than ever.
Perfect. And thank you. Right. I am obviously a female business owner. I'm not one of those big media conglomerates. I'm flying solo, and I'm grateful for this period of time during COVID that my clients. I serve businesses, right? Businesses and business organizations, B2B, who want to get in front of the people that they want to do business with and get the word out about what they're doing. And I didn't lose any clients during this past year and a half, but I know many that have had to close their doors. They've had to cut their expenses, scale back on employees, and to have organizations and even our city, our municipality rallying around us to say, we care, we can do better. Here's the way that we're going to help you get funded, especially for those organizations and or businesses and individuals that are underserved. It's critical. I mean, we could talk about the disparity as it relates to even technology for that matter. But I would love to hear from Phil and what City of Phoenix has to say about this opportunity.
Yeah, no, we are really happy that the Better Business Bureau brought this to our attention and asked us to be a part of it. So I thank them all, Kimberly Rowland over at the Better Business Bureau, for putting this sliding it into a slide deck that we were not expecting, but led to some very good things. But really working with a lot of the startup and the entrepreneurs, especially those in the ideation stage, there's always been this gap that's existed about once you're educated and you kind of understand and you're ready to go with your business, where do you go next? Because you may not have the private money. You may not want to put in your own money, or you may not have that money. So where do you go? Now, you can go get a microloan. Those are out there. But they also do charge, and Jose, feel free to jump in because I don't want to misquote anything. They do charge an interest rate, and they also require some sort of collateral, to put up against the loan. But a lot of people may not have that collateral to put up or want to bear the interest on that. So this is an opportunity for a business to come in and to rely on their friends and family to basically be that collateral in order to get the loan. And rather than going through a lot of the financial documents, which I know Jose likes to do with his banking background, really here what you're doing is you're going into the community saying, hey, this is my idea. I'm going to sell cupcakes. Do you think this is a worthwhile idea? And if the community gives you the funding to initially start you off, then that basically is your backstop for your loan. And then you get put on the platform and seen. So we didn't have that ability before just because there was maybe some resistance to go for a microloan. But now you're dealing with a microloan with a 0% interest rate, and it's really up to you. And you don't want to disappoint your friends or family. You don't mind if maybe you lose your motorcycle, but you definitely don't want to lose your friends and family.
Yeah, Phil, going off of that, I think it's really important that both of you said that a lot of businesses are struggling right now, especially because of COVID-19. And I think one of the most important factors about Kiva is that there's no minimum credit score. There's no years of cash flow documents that are required, no collateral that is required in order to qualify. And for the underwriting purposes, I come from a banking background and kind of shifting the gear on how we see how to qualify business owners. We use what we call social underwriting. And so, as Phil mentioned, we want to see that a business owner has been actively engaging their community members, that has been sharing their story and their passions about what they're doing with people in their lives. And then those people can vouch for them on the Kiva application, the Kiva fundraising. So with every tier related to the Kiva funding, so the loan sizes right now are $1,000 to $15,000. Each chunk has a minimum of private fundraising amounts that is needed to be done. And when I say amount related to the dollar amount, I'm talking about mostly individual contributions. So if I need to get 5 people to privately fundraise, that's not 5 people giving me $1,000 each. That's 5 people giving me a minimum of $25 that serves as Phil said, like the loan piece to my loan request to say, hey, there are 5 people in my life that know that this is something that is valuable to me. I want to start this cupcake stand. I want to start this restaurant. I need this truck, and I need this down payment assistance. And that is where the Kiva Loan comes in. And I think that it's really important to kind of note that there is a difference between certain microloans and then the Kiva Loan, just because the organizations that house the hub and the organizations that partner with the hub, like the City of Phoenix and Godaddy, we cover all of the costs so that the borrower doesn't have to bear any of that responsibility. And it is very much an impact forward product.
It's fascinating that we're having this conversation today because just yesterday I was talking to one of my hosts and clients, project management office hours, Joe Puz with the PMO squad. And we were talking about another business that had been on as a guest, and he'd listened to that episode and how that gentleman got his business funded, at least launched and off the ground, was by hosting this party in his home, talked about, and it's similar to, I've never really thought about this as an option for myself, but he gathered family and friends and shared his vision for what he has in mind, and that it was a SaaS product. And Joe said that at the end of this gathering, he had $250,000 raised on behalf of, kicking his business off. I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I should think of something like that. So obviously that's a different example, but Am I confusing kind of how the wheels get turning for this opportunity when folks engage with a Kiva Hub? Does it kind of start like that?
So actually, the way that it works is people can go to our kiva.bbbcommunity.org site and they can fill out an interest form or go directly to the application depending on how ready they feel to take on this kind of, usually it's 30 minute to an hour long application to fill out. And in that application and in that process, they learn all about what to expect with the Kiva process. And I also get introduced to them that way. And so I like to have one-on-one conversations with these borrowers, explain to them exactly what they need to know in order to prepare for this process and be that guiding hand for them along the way. And I know that there are borrowers that I've worked with who could tell you that I've given them my personal phone number and they can contact me at any time, and I'm willing to answer any questions, give them suggestions on how to improve their profile. Just like you would on social media when you post a photo to Facebook or Instagram, you really want to showcase your best side to make the best impression on all of the individual lenders that are on the Kiva site.
So impressive to
Jose,
have. Yeah,
sorry, I just have to give Jose a quick kudos on that because that is such a big barrier, especially for someone who might not have that technical background or that technical assistance, not even knowing how to apply for something like this. And by having someone like Jose who is there to have that one-on-one conversation can make just a huge, huge difference.
Absolutely. Jose, I agree with what Stacy's saying. So often when we're an entrepreneur, business owner starting out, or 3 years in like I'm in and have been doing everything by myself, there comes that time that I know I kind of have to, what's this next level? And oftentimes we don't know who to ask. So we've got the finance from BBB and your assistance. We've got the support from Godaddy and the city of Phoenix and the knowledge and the breadth and the depth of connections and reach that you all have to help us navigate through a program like this. It's fantastic. Do people outside of Phoenix, the city of Phoenix, do they qualify as well, or is it just specifically for Phoenix?
So that's actually a really great question. Currently, our service area is all of Maricopa County. And so one of the things that we're looking at is how I can be a resource to businesses that fall outside of that county divide, just because BBB serves the entire Pacific Southwest. And so that for us is something important, that I want to be a resource and I want to be a tool for access to this knowledge of this product. And so we're developing a lot of walkthroughs, like video walkthroughs of what an application process is, so that anybody in our service area or anybody that has a touch point with our BBB and our partners can take advantage of this product, even if I'm not going to be able to work with them directly. And so through the Kiva Hub program and the Capital Access Manager role, I have access to the customer relationships management tool that Kiva utilizes in order to manage their pipeline. Unfortunately, the breadth of that is only to Maricopa County, but the process is the same for anybody anywhere in the world.
How long has Kiva Hub been available?
So the Phoenix Kiva Hub specifically launched last month, but we've been, the product itself has been around since 2005. Okay. So Kiva, again, started internationally in 2005, and only as of recently in the last couple of years did they start their U.S. operations. But even before we launched, we had such a huge kind of momentum of applications within the pipeline for the hub. And that just goes to show just how vast the need for access or for affordable, equitable capital is within our communities.
And are there any industries or verticals that wouldn't be appropriate or wouldn't qualify? Like what we talked a little bit about the underserved business owner, but are there any other parameters that one needs to be aware of where they might not be a fit?
Yeah, so there are a few qualifications. And first, the business must be based in the United States, specifically within the hub market. If you're going to be working with a hub capital access manager, the applicant must be over 18 years old. The loan must be used for a business purpose. So you can't take a Kiva loan and use it to buy yourself a jet ski or something like that, or use it to build out your home. Your business must not be engaged in any illegal activities or any of the following activities like multi-level marketing, direct sales, gambling or scamming, or just pure financial investing. And then you can't be in foreclosure or bankruptcy or under any liens when we're looking at the process. And then you must also be willing to demonstrate, again, your social capital, your social underwriting capabilities with your community. And so those are the three, those are the basic kind of qualifications that help us reduce risk in a sense, in a way that is not financially exclusive of many other industries or business types.
Mm-hmm. I have not read it yet, but I was hosting a show called Racism and Small Business in the Arts, and we did a 6-part series. And one of the books that was recommended to me was The Color of Money. Have any of you read that? Yeah.
No, but that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's again, it would be a rabbit hole for today's conversation, but I'm very intrigued by the history and the story behind the way the banking industry works and worked, and how we got here today because of some of those deep holes and gaps between what is available and to whom. So, just thought I'd ask that question. So I want to hear from Stacy a little bit more. You had mentioned the term inclusive entrepreneurship. Can you tell us what that means to you?
Yeah, so inclusive entrepreneurship means that anyone, anywhere has an equal shot at starting or growing their own business. So, we know there's access is not equal right now. And just, on your last topic around capital, we also know that 83% of venture capital-backed founders have a racial composition that's entirely Caucasian. That's not equal. And we know how important funding is to a small business. And so we need to do better at leveling the playing field. And so inclusive entrepreneurship would mean that anyone, anywhere, doesn't matter what you look like or where you live, you would have an equal shot at starting or growing your own business. So that means having access to resources. That means having resources that have been built for you, having people being able to meet entrepreneurs where they're at in their journey, and that there's truly a level playing field for entrepreneurs.
Where do you see the impact of Empower by Godaddy in the next 3 to 5 years? How do you guys project that out, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so our goal with Empower is just to continue growing this program to serve more and more entrepreneurs. Currently, we're working with partners and entrepreneurs in almost every state in the US and then in the UK and Germany as well. And so we want to just continue this program by providing resources to entrepreneurs around the world and partnering with really great cities like the city of Phoenix, who are dedicated to helping small businesses and building their entrepreneurial ecosystem. In the 4 years we've had this program, we have changed the program and we have tweaked it and reiterated, done all of these different things to make sure that we continue addressing the most pressing needs in the community. And then we're also able to respond to those needs. Like, for example, helping get an accessible capital program into cities. And so our goal is just to continue working within cities, working with great partners to be able to bring this resource to more and more entrepreneurs.
Stacy, when you lay your head on, go ahead, Jose, go ahead.
Oh, I really wanted to add on to, what Stacy was saying about the equity piece or the diversity piece. That's something that's really important to Kiva as a whole. And the last time that I did research on the impact that Kiva US has had, 68% of the borrowers were women-owned, 71% were minority. Of the borrowers that actually applied for a Kiva loan, 60% of them had previously been rejected for a typical or traditional lending product. And almost 60% of them also had credit scores below 650. And so when we talk about a product that is really directed at having equitable access to capital, this is, exactly that fit as, Stacy was saying.
Thank you.
And I mean, this could be a whole other conversation, but it's like,
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, the Black-owned businesses have created over 1 million jobs and have generated $165 billion in revenue. Yet Black entrepreneurs are largely overlooked and harshly underfunded, especially compared to their white counterparts. And when we look at the reality, we see that people of color want to start businesses at a rate of almost 20% more than their peers. And in the last decade, Hispanics have started businesses at 15 times the national average. Like, think about how we can boost local economies and revive these local economies, especially coming out of COVID-19, if we're able to invest in these people who are really active in the community and who are building businesses.
And I'll kind of add on to that and what Stacy's talking about, and Karen, what you actually mentioned a number of minutes ago. When it comes to these small businesses and where do you go, where's the education, what do you do next? The financial component is definitely an extremely critical part of it. But a lot of people just need education. They just need to know, where do I go? How am I going to start this thing? And so there's a lot of different resources out there. And it's really important that here in Phoenix, locally, 95% of all businesses located in Phoenix have less than 50 employees. And there's 100,000 businesses that have less than 100 employees. So really, small business is one of the main backbones of our economy. It creates jobs, it creates money in the economy, it creates opportunities, and it also diversifies our economy. So we're in full support of it in any way we can. There's a lot of, the city actually just launched about a month or two ago the Small Business Toolbox, and it's phoenix.gov/small toolbox /small toolbox, and you can go on there and find all the resources that you may need depending upon the stage of your company. So, for example, it gives links to some of our partner organizations that are out there, like the BBB, the Small Business Administration. But then we also have classes we call the Business Roadmap program, where we actually provide the education to those ideation companies that aren't ready yet to actually open up their doors, and we train them on 8 various topics. It's all free. It's run through our libraries. We unfortunately had to kind of put it on pause because of COVID, but we're going to relaunch it again here at the end of this year, early 2022. But the Small Business Toolbox kit, it also provides you how to become a vendor with the city of Phoenix. So when we go to buy something, you can be on our radar and see what we're looking for.
Phil, does the City of Phoenix also support business owner introductions? Like, how do I get to know about other businesses and get to connect them with the City of Phoenix as a helper for that?
Yeah, and that Small Business Toolbox Small Business Toolbox link, there actually is something about partner organizations. And not only does it talk about the different chambers of commerce, the Arizona Black Chamber, the Arizona Asian Chamber, Hispanic, Green Chamber, it also talks about more of the localized business affiliations that are out here. So things like 19 North, 32nd Street. These are all groups of businesses that have gotten together just to talk about what's happening in their area, and they're all in different types of businesses. And so that way we as a city can go and participate with them and talk to them and have our police there, have maybe an economic development staff there, and hear what they're feeling, some of the things they would like to see. It's a great way for us to communicate, because obviously if we have 30 people in a room all having the same problem, it makes it much easier for us to try and solve the problem versus 30 people with direct inbound calls coming in talking about slightly different things. So those neighborhood alliances, the business alliances, are really critical. And depending upon where you are, there's a list on there, and you can reach out to them and figure out how you can participate.
And does your business have to have a, Phoenix zip code address to participate? Is it specific to city residents and or where my business resides?
A lot of these tend to be kind of local, pretty hyper focused on within a specific area. So I'm not saying that there aren't some that may be on the border of Phoenix or Tempe that can draw in from both sides. But when you talk like 32nd and Shea, for example,
Yes.
That's not near really anything else. And 19 North, I mean, that's definitely really within Phoenix. So they tend to just be really geographically located within a specific area.
I just want to add to what Phil is saying on the importance of that networking and skills building piece. That's how Godaddy and Better Business Bureau started our partnership by developing this program through Empower, which specifically helps Main Street business owners. So we do this through a few different ways, but we have a Main Street Accelerator. So it's a 16-week program that brings entrepreneurs in to learn about all of these different skills that they need for their business, from ethics and legal to building a website and social media. We also are launching a virtual program so that we can reach more entrepreneurs across the state in Arizona and also Southern California. And then we host different summits as well. So summits that are geared towards specific populations, for example, women business owners, because we know how important that networking piece is as well. And so our goal with the partnership and how this started was to try and convene all of these resources into one place to make it as easy as possible for small business owners. Karen, you're a business owner. There's a lot of resources out there. If we can make it easier for you, so you can come into one program, you can get connected with city resources, you can get the content you need, you can meet people who are on the same journey as you, you're going to have a better chance at succeeding. And so now that we have that and we're able to add this capital component, we really have sort of this trifecta of skills building, capital, and networks that we can bring to entrepreneurs here.
I'll admit that there have been a handful of organizations that have offered, say they offer kind of similar opportunities as a business startup, but they've felt, and my experience has been, they've been very archaic. They haven't grown since their conception or when they were developed maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. And what I'm hearing from each of you, that this is work in progress. You take the feedback that you get, you're very highly engaged with the business owners and the community, and listen and shift and pivot for what's needed. Obviously the financing piece being, the reason why we're here to talk today, and how paramount that is. So kudos to all of you for listening to what people need and acting upon it. Phil, I want to just kind of go back to you and your experience. If someone has an idea to start a business and it's just in that ideation stage, what do you think is the wisest first step? And of course, Stacy and Jose can jump in there as well to add on to that.
Absolutely. It's a great question. Really, education and learning is the best thing to do. And it can be very confusing with the internet, with everything that's out there. That's why trying to find like an Empower or a small business toolbox is really critical, especially if it's by a vetted company, because just doing searches and finding things here and there is a little bit difficult. But going to the small business toolbox, what you'll find on there is My Biz Phoenix, for example, which is actually a tool to let you see what is happening in your area. It's more of a data-driven analysis. But if we look at food islands and we look at heat islands, and those are bad things. But if I'm opening up a bakery and I find a bakery island, that's probably a pretty good place to open up my bakery. So there's a tool on there to let you figure that out and also understand the demographics of the people around there and who your potential customers would be. Also identify who your suppliers might be, and just like I say, find out who your nearest competition is. We've also got the Phoenix Biz Hub, not to be confused with the Kiva Hub. This one's spelled HUUB, which was recently launched as well. And that's more of a connector for businesses to get into, to also see what's around them, like connect them to incubators, accelerators, some co-working spaces that are out there. And you answer a series of questions for those, and it can really, through technology and algorithms, kind of really point you in the right direction. But then there's also the city programs that are out there. And like the big one that I would probably pitch, which is really great for companies that have just launched, maybe they've been around for about 8 months, but they're finding there's something wrong. Like if you're a husband and you're a great chef and your wife is an accountant and you've figured out this great place to put your little bistro, you've done all the research, you open up the doors and nobody's walking in. Well, you probably have a problem with marketing. So the city has a program called Management Technical Assistance, where we will actually cover the cost for a consultant to come out and work with you and address that particular issue. And so this is market rate. This is not, recent graduates. These are actually vetted, qualified individuals. So we do it for accounting and finance, general business and marketing, public-private procurement, information technology, human resources. And like I say, they come out and they're more of like a trainer at a gym. So while we all want the trainer to lift the weights for us so we can have that amazing body, what they're there to do is to show you how to do this. So they're not your employee, they're a consultant. And so that really, we find, has a lot of positive impact for businesses. There's also other little things out there, and they're not little because they're up to $150,000, but for like renovation projects for the outside of your building, if you're in a certain location in a certain census tract area, the city actually has federal dollars that we can put towards replacing windows, doors, things of that nature. So some of those less desirable buildings in a neighborhood that no one really wants to touch because it's too much to deal with opening your business and redoing the outside of it. This is a way the city can come in and partner with the building owner and make that happen.
It's a little bit of a sidestep question for you, Phil, but before signing a lease, what are some of the things a business owner ought to consider?
Yes, so we have what we call the Office of Customer Advocacy. And a lot of times you have businesses that will identify a spot and think it's great, sign a lease, and then find out they can't do what they want to do. Case in point, let's say you want to open up that bistro or that cafe and you find a former dry cleaner. And you think, oh, this is absolutely perfect. Well, a dry cleaner doesn't really have parking because most people are there. Maybe you have 2 clients at a time and it's a very rapid turnaround, or they have a drive-through. Plus, your staff in there is generally going to be fairly small, and there'll maybe be 1 toilet in the entire facility. Now, if you're opening it up and having 20 or 30 people in there, you're going to need more than 1 bathroom, but you're also going to have to put in hoods and vents because in theory, you're also cooking as well, and you're going to need to have enough parking. So while it may look like a great idea to you, the city actually has restrictions because it's not actually going to work in there. So the Office of Customer Advocacy, it's also listed on that website. They can actually look at the property, look at the zoning, look at the use, and say this is a good idea, or you may want to continue your search. Politely saying.
Holy cow. So much information. And I'm 3 years in. I'm not limping along. I've been growing steadily. And yet I know I have to get out of my own way. And it's that, well, I like to think I have a growth mindset. As I'm sitting here listening to each of you speak, I can see where this fixed mindset, where I maybe even it's just fear-based or lack of even knowing where to start, has me, stalemate, right? I'm just like, okay. So if I began to tap into these wonderful resources and felt like I had a Jose on this arm and a Phil on that arm and a Stacy sitting right here, I'd be good to go. So I personally can't wait to get in there into the hub and into the resources that you've all shared. And again, Stacy, I bragged about what little I do with Godaddy at the beginning of our segment. I had no idea all of the things that you offer small business owners. I mean, I've watched it grow over the years, but I've been very narrow in my thinking. What else would you offer up, Stacy, that an entrepreneur ought to consider as maybe a few tips when they get started?
Yeah. So, I mean, and I just have to comment on your domain purchasing. That's how our business started, right? We started with domains and we have now grown into full anything that you need as a small business owner in your digital presence. And we've grown a lot. But, I think my tip would be to find your people if you're starting out. Phil has just talked about so many amazing resources. We have so many resources with BBB. You, as a small business owner, you don't have to do this alone. It can be extremely hard. It can be very lonely, but there are people and there are programs and there are resources out there to help you. And so that's my tip, is just to find your people. So whether that might just be someone who you can lean on and you need to vent to sometimes when things are tough, or someone who's actually going to be doing some business coaching for you, the resources are out there. And organizations like BBB and Godaddy in the city of Phoenix are a great place to start to see what exists in the community.
And for the business owners and entrepreneurs who are listening, I'm fairly visible out in the community because of what I do. I have just such an honor to talk to people like you, small businesses, large businesses, everybody in between. And so I've got an incredible network. I've got people who spend time with us in a conversation like this. They fall in love with the opportunity to share what they're doing. And I have that opportunity to make that ask, and I still don't, right? So whether you have a community rallying around you or you don't, what you're hearing from these professionals is there are people ready, positioned, poised to help you, and we simply have to just ask. That's my greatest takeaway out of this as well. Jose, what would you like to add to that? I see you chomping at the bit.
Yeah, going off of that kind of discussion and where we're going, when I think of what is important when looking to start business, or what are the primary things, I think that before someone can even start to think about accessing the resources, there are a lot of cultural and even historical components that factor into how they even think about money or business or seeking help. And so part of developing these programs and developing these kinds of institutional assistance, waypoints for these small businesses is to understand where business owners are at and where potential business owners are at. So, from a cultural perspective, Latinos don't like to discuss money, and that is one of the factors that also contributes to the difficulties when trying to create equitable financial solutions, is because to access the resources, you have to be able to overcome a long-standing cultural manifestation that has brought us to where we're at today. There are multiple factors, obviously, distrust of financial institutions, distrust of, institutions in general. But, these are factors that I think play into a bigger picture of risk and the understanding of risk. So, my banking background, obviously, risk is very, very pertinent to every decision that I make. However, as a business owner, I think understanding that the ideas that have been floating around, or the traditional ideas of what a business owner needs to do, that bootstrapping mentality, that kind of hustling mentality where you just want to burn yourself out or you just want to do everything yourself, oftentimes that can be very damaging to one's, mental health or even, personal just well-being overall. And so understanding that, as a human, as an individual, that you can seek help and that there are tools and people around that are willing to work with you, even with baby steps, to be able to get you to a point where you're comfortable going into a financial institution and asking for money. Some business owners don't even have a banking relationship because they just trust banks so much. And so part of even overcoming that, financial obstacle is overcoming the trust obstacle. In my mind, when you asked that, I immediately thought to, okay, where is a business owner at mentally from, multiple cultural perspectives? The traditional, U.S. business perspective is very bootstrappy, but it excludes a lot of business owners that are, immigrant based or, even first generation, or that just economically or socially don't have the ability to go through that process.
Great value added. Thank you. Phil, what would you have to add to this conversation as well?
I think as I'm listening, kind of talking, everyone's talking, one thing I always have found is I've done a lot of mentoring of companies is a lot of people feel like they're alone and that this is the first time that this has ever happened, and it's not. And the problems that they are having, there have been hundreds of other people with the exact same problem. And so definitely reach out, join some organizations. Everybody can do this. You look at all the major companies now, they started in a garage somewhere. So it is absolutely possible to have a business, to grow a business, and maybe it won't be the next Apple, maybe it won't be the next Godaddy, but it's going to be something that supports you and supports your family and supports the community. And so it's out there. You just be creative, look for the tools that are around you. And one of the things I'll add too is that the City of Phoenix, we actually have a concierge service. So you can call up to us and you'll either get Pam or Kedrick, and they will just talk to you and basically guide you through and work with you individually on this is where you need to go. This is who you should talk to. Here's this resource. So that number is 602-262-5040. And one of those two, Pam or Kedrick, will get back to you. But again, all ideas are good ideas. Just flush them out. Maybe the initial thing that you're trying to do as a business, what your concept is. A lot of people, by the end of my hour-long conversation with them, or 30 minutes, we've totally just scrapped the original idea and come up with a whole new business for them to do. And it was based off a little nugget of something that they mentioned in there that you could tell they were passionate about, but they hadn't really pursued it. So find your passion and see how you can create a company out of it. Whether it's on Etsy or wherever it is, it's always doable.
Fantastic. We're almost at the end of the hour, if you can imagine that. I was going to ask Stacy, but I'm going to put it out there to each of you. At the end of each day, when you lay your pet on your pillow, and it's been a great day business-wise, what is it that's made it a great day? Like, why do you do what you do? What keeps you going all the time? Stacy, I know that's kind of a bizarre question, but I thought of it when you were speaking. Would you mind starting for us? And then the guys can think ahead of time before I ask them.
Yeah, I think it's just the stories of people succeeding. So there's one business owner, and this is someone who's actually in Memphis who comes to my mind, but her name is Consuelo, and she was married. She had 2 boys, and in her relationship, her husband became abusive. And so she knew she needed to get out to save her life, to save her boys' lives. She needed to get out of that relationship. And she turned to small business as that way out. So she started her own cleaning company. And she was getting up, bringing her boys with her at 3:00 in the morning, cleaning schools, cleaning buildings, doing whatever she could to save as much money as she possibly could until she was able to save enough where she left her husband. And when she came and she found the Empower program, that we were running there, and she was able to help build her business, grow her marketing support, hire an employee, and really start building her business so she could look at this as her next way of life. And when we had talked to her last year, she was renting a house. And a couple weeks after that, she was able to actually purchase that house and buy her very own house. And so it's an amazing, amazing thing to see how individuals can turn to small business ownership and completely change their lives. And I think that's why we do this. And that's what makes it worth it.
Thank you so much for sharing that antidote. That's critical. And shout out to Consuelo. That's huge. And that's just one example, I'm sure, of hundreds of thousands that are already doing similar things, or let this be the seed that's planted for the person who's been dreaming about that opportunity, whatever situation they're in, and they just want to do more, do better, be better, create this legacy. That's what I heard in what you've mentioned, given her story. Now she has a legacy, a demonstration for her children and her community that we all can rise. Love it. Either Jose or Phil, who'd like to go next?
Sure, I'll jump in. I would just say mostly, when you say going to bed at night, what are your thoughts? It's mostly helping people. And I don't know, I went to Brophy, and that was, the high school out here, and the motto when I was graduating was a man for others. And so I've always kind of thought that everything I should do should be for other people, just in general. So working in city government, that's pretty much all you do is you just help people out and work with them. But really finding those people, I would say when they have a spark where they've realized they can do it, or that they're not totally crazy, that this actually could be a reality, and they pursue that dream and it turns into a success. Those are the things that really make you happy. Or on the business attraction side that I do, when you bring a company in here from California or New York, and you know that they're going to hire 60 or 70 people, you kind of know that there's 60 or 70 people out here that have no idea that the work you just did is going to create a job for them. So those are the type of things that, make me happy when I go to bed at night.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Jose, how about you?
That's awesome. No, I have, a similar kind of idea that I like to, think about as I, try to rest, or as I try to think of, how can I prepare for the next day? And that's always, if I've taken every opportunity to kind of expand what I am doing for someone else. And so with the work that we do, all of us, everybody here advocating and promoting support for small businesses, there are a lot of other factors, as Karen, as you mentioned earlier with that book, the color of money, there are multiple factors that go into why it is that these types of programs even exist. And so for me, being conscious of that intersectionality between finance and the human, the human aspect of, being a business owner and just being a member of the community. I think it's important to understand, that people need a safe place to live. People need access to, the resources that make it possible for them to pursue their dreams. And I think that that's been something that had stuck with me since I was working in a tutoring program through ASU when I was in college. And I saw that even though we were just providing support for children whose parents didn't have the resources to access affordable tutoring, or that they needed someone for daycare, there was a benefit not just on the educational front, but there was food that we provided for those children. We gave educational resources to the parents, and I worked with those parents to understand where they were at and try to connect them to people that I knew. And I kind of took those extra steps to make sure that they were put in a position to also help others once they were able to get that economic and social mobility.
I am thrilled to have spent the hour with all three of you. I look forward to staying in touch and not only looking at the Kiva Hub for myself, but also tapping into Godaddy resources in City of Phoenix. I'm just going to devour it. And I know that our listeners have found great benefit in listening to each of you individually speak to how you're showing up in your profession and the organization in which you represent, but also the collective partnership that you guys have all created on behalf of small businesses. On behalf of all of us, I thank you for that. As we close out the segment today, could each of you again share your name, the role that you represent, and then how we can stay in touch? I know you've mentioned several resources, but if we have learned anything from this conversation, what's the one place that you would encourage us to go after listening to this segment? Jose, could you start for us first?
Yes. So again, my name's Jose Anca. I'm the Capital Access Manager at BBB for the Phoenix Kiva Hub. And if you wanted to get in contact with me or learn more about Kiva as a program, Kiva the product, or how we can help you with any technical assistance that you may need, to go to kiva.bbbcommunity.org, and you can set up an interest form or call me directly. I'm always available to answer any questions for anybody.
You said that from the beginning. I believe you. I love it. And what is the most important thing to remember about Kiva? I know you've shared a lot, but if there's that one thing, what would that be?
I think that the most important thing to remember about Kiva is that it is an equitable and affordable capital program. So that we offer affordable financing to the community's most underserved, economically and socially underserved entrepreneurs within our community.
Thank you. Phil, tell us who you are and where what's that one place we need to go to jump in?
So Phil Bradstock, business attraction for the city of Phoenix. I would say that the website, the phoenix.gov/small business toolbox, is the best place to go to get started. You can also call us 602-262-5040, and Pam or Kedrick will get back to you. Or you can send us an email at teamphx@phoenix.gov. Those are really the go-to places to reach us. You can also find me at that phone number as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I love your title, Business Attraction Program Manager. I am definitely attracted to everything you guys are doing, and I look forward to learning more and staying in touch. Stacy, finish up for us. Where do we start with Godaddy, and remind us who you are again in the role you play?
Yeah, so Stacy Cline, I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainability at Godaddy. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, of course, you can connect directly with me on LinkedIn. Or if you want to learn more about what we're doing in Phoenix, you can visit bbbempowered.com, and you can learn about all of our upcoming programs and events, and also see recordings of past events as well.
Thank you again, all three of you. It's been an honor to get to know you, and I look forward to staying in touch in the future. Love what you're up to. This is Karen Nowicki with Phoenix Business RadioX, broadcasting from Max 6 Entrepreneurial Work Center right here in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.